The rain pounded hard on Malik's jacket as he stalked away from Hailtech's looming headquarters. His mind replayed the internal threats. Claire Benton's face draining with fury at his refusal, and the ominous message naming him as target. Every step toward the car was fueled by mounting dread and fierce resolve. He tapped his phone. He needed to find Kareem Bahari, the royal client who'd made that call. If anyone could confirm what was really happening inside Hailtech, it was Kareem. From his small apartment in Bronzeville, Malik spent hours navigating phone books, encrypted messaging platforms, and private networks, tracing the origin of that call. He discovered contact details matching an international number tied to a royal branch in the Middle East. Kareem had no idea he wasn't talking to a senior executive when he phoned. He believed Malik was Hailtech's operations head. That made Malik both a fraud in their eyes and a fall guy. Under the oppressive moisture of the next afternoon, Malik donned a Lyft driver apron warehouse style and downloaded the app under an alias. He wasn't proud, but he needed anonymity. Posing as driver Daniel Ortiz, he booked a pickup at O'Hare's Westfields parking lot, precisely where Kareem had promised to meet. Every breath felt heavy with the weight of potent discovery. He pulled his trunk open and loaded a cooler and a suitcase full of cleaned uniforms, props to maintain the disguise. The airport shimmered in midday heat, haze and rain. He eased the rental-backed company sedan into a discreet space and waited under the dull roar of jets. The rain had softened to mist, lending a cinematic gray filter across the tarmac. He practiced comforting tones in his head. Calm, official, composed. Then Kareem appeared, tall, regal, draped in a tailored suit that whispered wealth. His eyes glowed with both exhaustion and desperation. Malik recognized him from a grainy website photo, a royal liaison, eager, vulnerable. Kareem approached the car, wallet in hand, pausing before seeing the Lyft sticker. Malik greeted him. "Mr. Bahari, I'm Daniel, your ride." Kareem nodded, eyes wary. Inside the car, the air hung thick. Malik didn't introduce himself as Malik Rivers. Instead, he stayed Daniel, asking questions, listening carefully. "You called a janitor at midnight," he said softly. "I'm hardly what they presented." Kareem's shoulders shook. "They said you were in Dallas. Operations lead, fluent in English, logistics specialist. You answered professionally, made me think you were an executive." His voice broke with disbelief. Malik's throat constricted at the injustice. He looked at Kareem in the rearview mirror. "They used your trust to set me up. They used my identity." Kareem's face hardened. "Everything signed by you. Contracts, shipment letters, compliance docs. They even sent signed NDAs under your name." Malik's blood chilled. His stolen credentials, recycled across languages and borders, used as corporate laundering tools. He steadied the wheel, focusing on the road and the conversation. Each mile tightened the emotional load. Kareem pulled out his phone and scrolled through emails and PDFs, NDA envelopes, signed agreements, dated while Malik was already cleaning floors. Malik stared at them, sickened. "This is my name, my signature. They forged it." A fresh twist hit. The contracts bore an email domain from a shell company supposedly based in Dubai, one that didn't exist on any business registry. Hailtech had set it up to transfer restricted tech, bypass legal scrutiny, and funnel money through fake executives, including Malik. Kareem shook his head, bewildered. "I thought I was dealing with senior leadership. Then the shipment vanished. I called and you answered." Malik clenched his fingers on the steering wheel. He realized how deep the exploitation went. This was not negligence. It was deliberate racism, layered with corporate crime. They had created a black face to deflect blame, literally, to fall on Malik, and now they'd implicate him as the one who mishandled $45 million worth of goods. The car hit a patch of road that glistened from rain, tossing water onto the windshield. In that moment, Malik saw himself behind the wheel, a cleaner by night, racial scapegoat in corporate shadow. Each twist of the turn signal felt like a moral weight. "You weren't alone," he said quietly. "You trusted them. They betrayed both of us." Kareem nodded, eyes moist with anger. "We have more evidence." Emails between senior Hailtech execs discussing credit under Malik Rivers. One message read, "Use his credentials, he's disposable." Kareem held the PDF. Malik felt bile rise again. The racism was baked in, the algorithmic calculation cold and intentional. But then an unexpected emotional turn. Kareem wiped a tear. He recounted being gaslit by Hailtech's PR spin, repeatedly apologized to by spokespeople, who promised restitution, but nothing came. They offered him discounts, token gestures. They never addressed the stolen identity issue. They gave me Malik's name and privileges and disappeared. Malik felt an ache for justice, not compensation. You trusted me to rescue your shipment, he said softly. I didn't create this mess, but together we can expose it. Kobe's signature allyship formed across lines of empire. Kareem nodded slowly, drawing courage from the rain-lit cockpit. They pulled up near a concealed corner of the lot. Malik turned off the app, but spoke with new clarity. We need to go to the FBI, but on our terms, not just complain. We need to bring proof. Kareem looked at him, suspicion mingled with faith. Will they believe me? They'll think I'm just a foreign scandal. Malik snapped his fingers quietly. I have Claire's recording. The threats, the NDA offer. Now we combine it with your contracts and signed correspondence. They'll have to act, or expose themselves. Each word built tension in the car. The moment felt cinematic. Two unlikely truth-seekers forged in moral outrage. But as Malik ended that sentence, headlights appeared across the tarmac. Two black SUVs parked about 20 feet away. FBI agents emerged, briefcases, badges visible. Kareem's eyes widened. Malik's heart thundered. The stormy sky overhead framed the moment, like a portent. They stepped toward the car. One agent called out, Mr. Bahari, Mr. Rivers? Their voices carried professional detachment. But Malik felt the subtext. You're both suspects until proven otherwise. The agents clicked open badges, politely but firmly asking for identification. Kareem produced his passport. Malik held back, actors still in disguise, heart hammering. He hadn't expected them so soon. The twist, they'd arrived before they could even approach them. It wasn't by Zahari's request. Someone tipped them off. But who? Claire? Linton? Higher executives? Or someone inside the FBI, who had seen Hailtech growing too powerful? The night scene closed in, around them. Airport lights flickering off damp concrete. The hiss of distant jets, rain mist swirling low. FBI agents formed a partial circle. Malik and Kareem locked eyes. This was the moment their moral stand would collide with institutional power. Inside the car, the recording device remained in Malik's pocket. The contracts and proofs lay in Kareem's lap. But uncertainty gnawed. Would the agents see them as whistleblowers, or foreign collaborators? Racial politics, corporate spin, national interest, all meshed in a volatile storm. Malik took a deep breath, readying himself to speak truth to power. His stomach was chaos and steel. Kareem reached for his hand. Malik squeezed. A silent vow passed between them. They'd expose what Hailtech built, a racially exploitative laundering network, and they'd survive. As Malik leaned toward the window to explain their case, an FBI agent's phone buzzed with a message. He paused, eyes flicking to Malik, and whispered something into his coat pocket. They've got Hailtech's X on speed dial. Orders came down just now. Detain both of them for questioning. Rain dripped from Malik's shoulders, as the FBI agent gently placed a hand on his elbow, escorting him toward the waiting SUVs. Kareem was already seated, hands folded in his lap, visibly shaking. Malik's heart pounded, not from fear alone, but from fierce resolve. He had stepped into this fight. Now there was no turning back. They weren't arrested, no cuffs, no charges. Instead, they were detained for questioning. Agents led them to a cold, windowless conference room inside O'Hare's secure wing. White walls, a long table, chairs pressed into rigid order. An agent in a sharp suit slid a folder across court documents. Hailtech's company structure, scanned emails. The accusation lay implicit. Malik and Kareem were now persons of interest in a billion-dollar international scandal. One agent, Carter Mills, leaned forward. Listen, Mr. Rivers, he said, using Malik's real name. We suspect Hailtech is laundering restricted technology. We suspect your name has been used to facilitate illegal transfers, but we lack internal documentation. Malik winced at the phrasing. The FBI didn't call him a witness. They called him a suspect. Mills continued. We can offer you a deal. You cooperate as a mole, inside Hailtech. Give us intel. In exchange, we can protect you. ICE threats vanish. Your daughter stays safe, and you stay out of jail. A silence fell. The agent's proposal framed Malik as asset, not ally. But the sting resonated. He should have been offered protection, not leverage. He'd already been through Claire's corrupt negotiation. Now the FBI tried to chain him to their agenda. Kareem spoke next, voice trembling. Will cooperating incriminate me? I didn't steal the shipment. Agent Mills looked at him coldly. Your involvement is under review, but we do value the documents you have, the contracts and emails. The tone was clinical. Justice felt secondary. Malik straightened, eyes steady. Let me be clear, he said, voice firm. I do not cooperate on your geopolitical games. I cooperate on truth and justice. I'm not your mole. I'm a witness with responsibility. Mills paused, taken aback. This time the twist. A different agent, a woman named Torres, stepped forward. She laid a manila envelope on the table. There's more, she said. Inside photographs Claire Benton handing the NDA folder to Malik during their internal meeting. Another, Linton and a man taller than either, shaking hands in a conference room, labeled foreign contracts. The message burned. Hale Tech executives colluding with unknown operatives. Torres whispered, we got these from an internal leak. A whistleblower, but we don't know their identity yet. Malik stared. He realized he now had leverage both inside and outside. The FBI had more evidence than he imagined, but they still needed his help. He didn't feel safer, only more wary. Mills inhaled, acknowledging the shift. If we go public without internal sourcing, everything would blow up, and not in a good way. We could destroy legal cases, expose vulnerable witnesses. The words hinted at caution. The FBI's priorities lay in control, not reckoning. Malik lowered his gaze. He thought of Simone, of his father, of his own identity, as a Gulf War vet, former IT specialist, wronged man, reduced to cleaning floors. He thought of his mother's lullabies, memories of his father's battered body, after covering the '92 riots. They carried trauma and strength in equal measure. In that moment, he understood his bloodline of resistance had called him here. The FBI could offer protection, but only if he danced to their tune. So he agreed, but only on his terms. I'll talk, he said, but nothing moves forward unless you officially subpoena Hale Tech for metadata logs. The contracts under my name, logs of watchers assigned to me, any internal blacklist documents. They must be public, otherwise I walk. A long pause. The scent of stale coffee and fluorescent humidity filled the room. Carter Mills exchanged a nod with Torres. At last Mills spoke. We'll consider your conditions. Silence stretched, then Torres added, if all goes well, your record stays clean and you get witness protection. But if you cross us, the charges reappear. Malik nodded. He shook hands with Kareem, who looked at him with cautious relief. They left the sterile room and emerged into a corridor with guards and cameras. As they walked out of O'Hare and into relative freedom, neither felt free. That evening, Malik called his older brother Tariq, a fiery academic radical teaching at a Chicago college. Tariq answered after a few rings, voice sharpened by fatigue and concern. Malik explained the FBI deal, the conditions, the threat. Tariq's tone tightened. You're walking into that system now, Malcolm, he said, using their birth name. They'll use you. If you don't demand your terms, they'll absorb you and spit you out once you're no longer useful. You'll become their tool. Malik swallowed respectfully. Tariq wove in stories of their father, the civil rights journalist beaten into a coma, while covering the '92 LA riots. Dad died twice that day, Tariq said softly, once when they beat him, and again when the press silenced him. The unspoken lesson. Resistance requires independence. Tariq urged caution. Wait until the subpoena is served. Let me connect you with journalism contacts. Let's plan leaks that protect you. The conversation humiliated his predefined deal with FBI. But Malik's instincts circled back. This was bigger than him. Bigger even than the FBI's deal. A flashback came unbidden. Malik's father, limp on a sidewalk, notebook cracked across his forehead, cameras filming torn posters and sirens. A black man at war with the press's indifference. That legacy pulsed in Malik now. He hung up, tension cutting across his chest. He felt both empowered and fragile. There was no clear protector. Not the corporate world. Not the FBI. Not even his brother's advice. Each offered something, but not truth or justice alone. Late at night, he slipped back into his apartment, where Simone sat studying by lamplight, eyes red from crying. He knelt beside her. Go to bed, he whispered, but she looked up, weary and confused. Dad, is this because of what they said at school? Malik swallowed. He hadn't told Simone yet. He hugged her, heart splitting. I'm trying to keep us safe, he said, choosing vague words. Simone's eyelids drooped. Promise? She whispered. Malik kissed her forehead. I promise. He left her room and sat at the kitchen table, lights dim, recording devices, printed emails scattered before him. The weight of decisions pressed down. Cooperate under his conditions. Keep Claire's voice and Kareem's contracts together. Demand public subpoenas. His identity could still be erased, or used. Then the unexpected twist. His phone pinged. A new message. Simone suspended for code of conduct violation. No explanation. No contact info. Just the notice. Malik's chest tightened as he read it. The weaponization of their daughter had already begun. He tried calling the school. No answer. The automated line blinked with a recorded message. You may appeal in person Monday. Monday. The word felt like a lifeline, weeks away. But right now Simone was suspended. He sank into the chair, heart pounding as he stared at her framed school picture on the wall. Outside, the city breathed in cold night air. Inside, Malik's world shifted. The leverage he gained, from FBI, leaks contracts, had bled into their home. The suspension felt orchestrated, not coincidence. A threat to his child. He looked at the contracts from Kareem, the recorded conversation with Claire, the leaked photos, evidence of corporate and institutional misconduct. But now his daughter was punished for defending a classmate, a Latino student bullied by racist peers. Her suspension cited vague threatening behavior. The threat extended from corporate headquarters to school hallways. Malik rose with brutal calm. He packed the documents, the phone, the recording gear, and flipped the lights out. Simone slept. He placed a hand on her forehead, warmth lingering. Promise rattled in his chest. He considered going to the school Monday, but that felt passive. He needed action now. He thought of Tariq's contacts. His own contacts inside a small activist press outfit. He could release everything publicly, but that might expose Simone more. Still, the corporate pressure, the FBI deal, it all felt like cogs in a machine. He sat in darkness, balancing bravery and fear. As Malik prepared to draft an emergency email, with all documents attached, the front door lock clicked from outside. Footsteps echoed. Someone at the door. He froze. Was it news media, FBI, Hail Tech operatives, or a furious principal? The next morning, the apartment grew cold under the dull glow of early sunlight. Simone slipped silently out of bed, backpack slung over her shoulder, already teary-eyed. Malik noticed her hands trembling as she wiped mascara from soft cheeks. He asked gently, Simone, are you okay? She nodded, avoiding his gaze. The unspoken tension hung heavy. He saw dread lingering in her pupils. That afternoon, Malik got the call from Simone's school. She'd been accused of threatening behavior during an incident in the hallway. His stomach clenched. Simone had merely stepped in to defend a Latino student being taunted with racial slurs, but the school had labeled her the aggressor. Violent conduct, they said. Malik felt the familiar machinery of institutional racism click into place, this time targeting his daughter. Later that day, he marched into the principal's austere office, a place doused in beige monotony and framed certificates. Principal Daniels, well-dressed and immaculate, greeted him with forced politeness. Malik sat down, folding his hands firmly. My daughter did not threaten anyone, he said. His tone was measured, but alert. She defended someone. Racism was the provocation. Principal Daniels lowered her eyes. Mr. Rivers, she began, voice calm, almost rehearsed. We have a zero-tolerance policy. Your daughter's behavior violated the code of conduct. Threatening behavior, not self-defense, is what we must treat. She leaned forward, cliché notes ready. We're impartial. We enforce rules evenly. Malik felt anger rise but controlled it. Are you telling me she shouldn't have stood up to racial hatred? That defending someone is punishable? Daniel's expression remained bland, impassive. We apply the policy equally. Race isn't a factor. He realized at that moment a deep exhaustion sweeping through him. That racism often looked like neutrality. The logic of discipline had already erased context. Simone had been erased. After leaving the school, Malik walked home under gray skies, Simone at his side, silence stretching between them. She looked down, voice barely audible. Wanna leave, Daddy? Tears glistened on her lashes. This school, I don't belong there anymore. Malik's chest squeezed. His daughter had inherited his trauma. He pulled her close. We'll figure this out. I promise. But the words felt hollow, the systems closing around them too tight. That night, as Simone slept fitfully, Malik sat at his desk before his laptop. He pulled up the video footage he'd secretly retrieved from Hailtech's temporary credentials. They'd granted him limited access during his deal with the FBI. There, uncut dry footage of the school hallway showed Simone stepping in between classmates. She raised her hands, not fists but open palms. She heard one boy spew a racist slur, then a harsh shove from a white boy. Simone recoiled, then comforted the Latino student. The coded board camera had captured the incident and his daughter's humane reaction. He edited a short clip under a minute with subtitles. Watch her stand, and hear what they pretend she did. He hesitated. This was private, collected under false pretenses. But he felt compelled. The weight of injustice telescoped. School authorities, corporate power, surveillance. He uploaded the clip to social media platforms anonymously under the hashtag #StandWithSimone. He added a brief caption. My daughter was punished for standing up to racism. This footage shows the truth. Within hours, the clip surged. The hashtag lit up Twitter, gained traction on TikTok and Instagram. Thousands shared it. Comments scrolled that school is ridiculous. Let her in college free. Discipline without context is injustice. News pages picked it up. Bloggers highlighted Simone's bravery. People of color and allies echoed the demand. Give Simone back her dignity. Malik watched the screen, tears in his eyes. The feeling was surreal. His daughter's silent scream finally heard. But with the attention came stark reminders of risk. The school could retaliate further, his identity exposed. Hailtech's surveillance could trace the leak back to him. His phone buzzed. A journalist from a progressive news outlet sent a message. We want Simone's story. Your source is safe. You should talk to us. A spark of hope ignited, but so did fear. Media attention could protect them, or deepen scrutiny. That night Simone awoke crying again. Malik knelt beside her, brushing hair from her face. You're brave, he reassured. You did the right thing. She stared at him, eyes glassy. I just wanted to help, she whispered. Now everyone sees me, and sometimes I don't want that. He placed his hand on hers. We'll go slow, he promised. At the apartment window, Malik stared at the city lights. He thought of the previous night. Claire's recorded threats, Linton's intimidation, the FBI deal, now school discipline, a daughter punished for compassion. The arc of injustice seemed designed to cut deeper each day. A dull knock echoed at the door at midnight. Malik froze. He held his breath. Was it press? FBI? Hailtech? School? He stood silently, counting breaths. No second knock. He swallowed. Perhaps wind, or nerves. He chose not to open it. The next day, Simone's phone buzzed with text messages from peers and activists. Some messages were supportive encouragement. Single mother-daughter, we have your back. Others were invasive, presumptive, demanding interviews. Simone shut her phone. She felt both supported and suffocated, spotlighted against her will. A lawyer friend of Malik's, who specialized in civil rights, called. She offered free representation for Simone's school case, and proposed sending a formal letter to the school board, plus threatening legal action, unless the suspension was revoked. She asked if Malik had permission slip signed. He said no, but offered the video snippet. She asked, do you have proof you legally acquired it? Malik hesitated. This breach in protocol could be used against them. The legal window was narrow. Meanwhile, the clip had drawn police and school board email inquiries. One new message came with a vague threat. Keep this up, you'll regret it. No signature. Malik's chest constricted. The harassment had circled family back into his home. Simone retreated from public view. She stayed home, her backpack untouched, school absence letters printed. She looked like someone erased. Malik watched her from the next room, unable to quell guilt at exposing her to public scrutiny. But he also recognized that silence would cost her even more. Late that evening, Malik got an unexpected tweet from a well-known civil rights group. We know who leaked the video. DM us if you want help going public. It wasn't signed. The offer was powerful, but also dangerous. Anonymous leverage made him uneasy. Could he trust them? He deferred, not yet. He messaged his brother Tariq. Tariq responded quickly. Hold tight. Let's coordinate with the journalist first. Amplify focus away from Simone personally. Keep your attention on the institution, not your home. Malik nodded at the screen. All the while, Simone remained silent in her room. She dabbed at tears and drew jagged lines in a notebook. The unchecked pain of being punished for compassion, for kindness, it tore at both father and daughter. Then came the unexpected twist. A front-page headline dropped on Malik's phone. Hailtech CEO responds, "These are baseless allegations," with a picture of Jonathan Hale standing tall in corporate lighting. The article quoted a prepared statement, "We cannot comment on ongoing personnel matters. But Hailtech has always maintained integrity in international operations." There was no mention of Kareem or Malik or Simone. Malik felt rage and dread in equal measure. Hailtech's CEO had now bowed to corporate crisis control and swiftly wielded PR. The scandal had reached Hailtech's highest level, and the first salvo was silence. He realized the risk had sharpened. No longer was it about his daughter's school fight. It was about a Czech corporate empire, now denying everything while using legal teams and PR to drown truth. The hashtag #Stand with Simone trended, but their wall of spin was rising fast. Simone peeked at his phone screen. "That's the man who called us," she whispered, voice barely there. Malik nodded, looking at her with sorrow and fierce pride. "Yes, and we'll keep him honest." He rose. "We need to decide, go public tomorrow morning, or wait till school board meeting." Simone looked at him, eyes wide. "I want justice," she said softly, "but I don't want hate. I just want to be back in class without being called a monster."
Malik inhaled. "We'll protect you," he said. "But I need your voice. Only when you're ready."
She nodded, exhausted and uncertain. The night closed in. This storm had begun with shadows in Hailtech corridors. But now it was raging in classrooms, corporate boardrooms, and social media. Simone's silent scream had gone viral. But would it echo long enough to crack open the wall? Just as Malik shut his laptop to go to bed, his phone lit up with an incoming call. The caller ID displayed the name, Jonathan Hale. Malik Rivers was just cleaning the boardroom floor when the CEO's voice thundered. Who let the janitor answer a $45 million call? But the voice on the line wasn't just a client, it was a foreign diplomat, screaming about betrayal. Malik wasn't supposed to hear, and now he knows too much. He's a black man with a mop, caught between corporate secrets and international scandal, and in the next 60 seconds, someone decides he shouldn't leave the building alive. Before we deep dive into this interesting story, subscribe to our channel, and tell us where are you watching from. Share in the comments below. Rain whipped against the 72nd floor windows of Hailtech Tower, like Mother Nature herself was trying to scrape the skyline clean. Chicago's midnight storm clung to the glass in streaks of black water, painting the city below in a war-torn blur. Inside, the hush was clinical, sterile, too quiet for the chaos outside. But one man remained, invisible by design. Malik Rivers gripped the mop like a weapon he never wanted to wield. His motions were mechanical, almost meditative. Row by row, tile by tile. His uniform, a gray jumpsuit with the words J&B contract cleaning, stitched over his heart, reflected faintly in the polished marble floors he scrubbed. Nobody looked at him twice. Why would they? He had once worn a different uniform. Camo fatigues, with his last name sewn in crisp block letters. Gulf War. Honorably discharged. Then came graduate school. A master's in information technology. He built infrastructure from scratch for startups, developed firewall architecture that outpaced industry trends. A decade ago, Malik Rivers was the rising star of the Midwest's black tech elite. Then came the betrayal. He didn't think about that night anymore. Or so he told himself. The silent accusations, the doctored code, the boardroom silence. When he tried to speak, the way the HR lady, white, red-lipped, smiling, slid over the pink slip like she was handing him a napkin. "Unfortunately, you're no longer a good cultural fit." The memory tightened his jaw. He was dragging the mop bucket past the glass conference room when the desk phone rang. 11:13 p.m. The light on the landline blinked furiously. An international number. No one else was around. Executives had long since fled for their downtown lofts or Lake Michigan retreats. The cleaning crew didn't even come up this high. This floor was Malik's domain. Still, protocol was clear. Don't answer phones. He froze, hand halfway to the receiver. The ringing continued. His eyes darted down the hallway. Empty. He exhaled sharply and picked up the handset. "Hello?" There was static. Then a male voice, thick with a Middle Eastern accent, controlled, but unmistakably rattled. "Jonathan, it's Bahari. Where is the shipment? My port agents say the container never landed in Casablanca. Malik blinked. I'm sorry.
No apologies. We wired $45 million last week. Do you know what that means in my country?
The voice cracked. Emotion, fury, maybe fear. Malik's gut clenched. He looked around again. Sir, I believe you have the wrong. No. You are Hail Tech. They told me. You confirmed delivery. My government wants answers. This is political now. Bahari. Malik had seen that name on corporate newsletters. Kareem Bahari. Oil magnate. Royal family. Hail Tech's golden whale client. Every neuron in Malik's brain lit up at once. He straightened. What exactly is in the shipment? There was a pause. Bahari's voice dropped. Specialized communications gear. Dual use. Your company said it passed all export controls. But now, Customs is asking questions. UN observers are circling. Dual use, meaning it could be civilian or military. And now it was missing. Malik's pulse thumped behind his eyes. He was about to speak when a sharp voice pierced the line. Another call had joined. A woman, nasal, curt. Who the hell is this on the executive line? Malik froze. This is Malik. Night maintenance. A pause, then cold condescension. You picked up a secure line? That's not just against policy. It's criminal. Stay in your lane. Put the phone down, and don't touch anything else. Click. She hung up. The line was still active. Bahari returned, confused. Was that Claire? She sounded different. Malik hesitated. Yes. She stepped away. He knew what he was doing was wrong. But instinct screamed louder than fear. I can transfer you to her voicemail if you'd like.
No, she never returns calls.
Bahari's breath came in fast bursts. If this becomes public, the contracts, the timing, it will look like smuggling. You understand? Do you know what your government will do to me? Malik grabbed a pen from the table and began scribbling on a napkin. Port Casablanca. Invoice. 45 memoirs. Cargo. Dual-use comms. I understand, Malik said. But let me ask, did you sign off on this directly with Hale? Or through an intermediary? Directly. Jonathan Hale himself. I have his emails. And there were no copies of the export paperwork? Only one. It was sent encrypted, then vanished. Someone is erasing trails. Malik's stomach flipped. The man thought he was speaking to someone inside the system, someone who could fix things. And oddly, Malik was not officially, but morally. The napkin was now a mess of names, numbers, and ominous phrases. Can you forward those emails to this number? Malik rattled off his burner Gmail. A calculated risk. You'll help me. Malik swallowed. Yes. I think I have to. When the call ended, Malik lowered the handset slowly, like placing a rose on a coffin. The silence that followed was deafening. Just rain, whispering against the windows like a secret. He sat there staring at his reflection in the glass. A cleaner, a janitor, a ghost in the system. And yet tonight, he'd mattered. For the first time in years, he felt dangerous. He folded the napkin and tucked it deep into his sock. He had no plan yet, but he had a purpose. Then he noticed something on the edge of the conference table. A blinking red light. A call was recording. Someone else had been listening. Malik discovers the shipment isn't just missing, it's about to trigger an international scandal. The storm had mellowed by the time Malik reached Bronzeville, but the cold still bit at his skin like winter wasn't quite done with him. He trudged up 3 flights of poorly lit stairs in a weather-worn brick building where the elevator hadn't worked in years. His apartment door creaked open to a modest studio lit only by the flicker of a small lamp and the faint hum of a refrigerator that moaned like it hated its job. He dropped his mop bucket outside the door, slipped off his soaked sneakers, and moved like a ghost across the cracked linoleum. The napkin with the scribbled notes, port numbers, client names, dollar signs, was balled tightly in his fist. He unfolded it carefully and spread it across the kitchen counter like it was evidence in a courtroom. He hadn't meant to become involved, but now that he was, Malik couldn't ignore what he'd heard. There was a knot in his chest that wouldn't unwind. He could still hear the panic in Bahari's voice, taste the condescension in Claire's interruption, and feel the quiet rage settling into his bones. Someone had weaponized his identity. Again, the rain tapped at the window. It almost masked the soft sound of footsteps. Dad? He turned. Simone stood at the bedroom doorway in oversized pajama pants and a faded Black Panther hoodie. Her hair was wrapped in a silk bonnet, and she held her math textbook like a shield. "You're home late again." Malik forced a smile. "Yeah." Got stuck cleaning executive karma. She walked closer, her eyes narrowing. "You look different, like you saw something you can't unsee." He chuckled, low and tight. "Let's just say, some people at work are dirtier than the floors." "Dad." He looked away, avoiding her gaze. "Go to bed, baby. I'll be in soon." But she didn't move. "You always say that when something's wrong." The words hung there. He wanted to tell her, wanted to prepare her for the tidal wave he sensed was coming. But she was just 15, still believed in honor roll and protest signs that changed the world. "Good night, Simone." She lingered a second longer, then retreated. The door clicked shut behind her. Malik exhaled slowly, then opened his laptop. A second-hand Toshiba with a missing key, and a fan that wheezed like it had asthma. He typed in an old email password, one he hadn't used since before the collapse of his career. As the inbox loaded, his mind drifted back. Malik's old office had been sleek, modern, and humming with the quiet arrogance of tech money. Back then, he had a corner desk and a team of 3. He built the security backend for a predictive analytics tool used by major hospitals. And then came Evan Miles. White, fresh out of Stanford, the CEO's nephew. Evan accidentally rewrote a segment of Malik's code, injected a vulnerability, and let it run. It triggered a breach that cost the company millions. Malik caught it in time, but not before the damage was done. When he reported the error, HR spun the narrative. Evan was a rising star, and Malik had failed to supervise. They offered him a quiet resignation. "No one's saying you did it on purpose, Malik," Claire Benton had said back then. "But appearances matter. And from where the board sits, this doesn't look good." He remembered looking at the faces around the table. Not one of them looked like him. And not one of them looked back with empathy. They took his badge, his dignity, and his pension. Back in the present, Malik pulled up a browser and searched for international trade laws. The shipment Bahari mentioned, it wasn't just suspicious. It was illegal. Dual-use technology sold without export authorization. That was a felony. If it traced back to Hale Tech, the fallout would be nuclear. He didn't want revenge. He wanted truth. He opened an encrypted messaging app and dialed a contact saved only as JD. "Hello?" came the voice, groggy but alert. "Jason, it's me." A pause. "Malik? Damn, it's been a minute. Need to ask a legal question off the record." "I'm listening." If someone hypothetically came across a company facilitating international trade in banned tech, what would the consequences be? Jason didn't laugh. "Jail time. Heavy fines. Corporate death. Who are we talking about?" Malik hesitated. "Can't say. Yet." "Well, if they're big, they'll have protection. If they're powerful, they'll bury whoever talks. And if the whistleblower's already been buried once?" Jason was quiet, then said, "Make sure this time you go public fast. Otherwise, they'll erase you again." Malik ended the call and stared at the screen. His hands trembled as he typed out the email. "To investigations at ProPublica. Subject: urgent Hale Tech leak. My name is Malik Rivers. I work the night shift at Hale Tech Tower in downtown Chicago. Tonight I answered a call that wasn't meant for me. What I heard indicates that the company may be involved in unauthorized international transactions that violate U.S. trade law. Attached are notes, timestamps, and names. I have more if you're interested. Please advise on secure transmission protocol." He hovered over the send button, just his finger above the key. His heart pounded. If he sent it, there was no going back. Then came a sound. Not loud, just a shift. Like a breath taken too close. The front door burst open. 3 men in black jackets rushed in. Corporate security. The Hale Tech logo, printed discreetly on their chest pockets. "Mr. Rivers," one said, stone-faced. "We need to speak with you." Before he hit send, the door bursts open. It's corporate security. Malik stepped off the elevators into an austere wing of Hale Tech's headquarters that felt more like a holding cell than an office. The sterile lighting seemed calculated to strip away dignity, and the faint hum of ventilation masked whispers in the hallway. Without warning, 2 stern corporate security officers flanked him, each one as expressionless as statues. There was no announcement, no formal greeting, only accusation. They marched him into a small room and shut the door. Before Malik knew it, he was told he was under internal investigation. His heart pounded, but his face remained still. He thought of his daughter, Simone, his home, his future. Nothing prepared him for this. No rights read, no lawyer offered. The company handbook had language bloody legalese about employee rights, due process, but none of it applied to a janitor, as if he were outside the loop of humanity. A man in a crisp suit sat across from Malik, at a long table. The man introduced himself as Richard Linton, Director of Internal Affairs, though neither he nor the others had badges or IDs. Linton began recitation of accusations that Malik could barely follow, impersonating a company official, unauthorized access to corporate equipment, and most chillingly violation of internal protocols and misrepresentation of identity. Malik's military training kicked in instinctively. He felt the urge to speak, to demand rights or lawyer, but he stayed silent. Silence in the barracks had been a weapon. Here, it sharpened purpose. His silence was deliberate, strategic, but everyone in that room interpreted it as guilt. Linton's eyes flickered in annoyance. "We have evidence you intentionally pretended to be an executive," Linton said, voice flat. "You transferred a call, you listened in, you took notes. We can confiscate all your observations, if you persist." Malik's thoughts raced. They knew he had the transcript of the call notes. They knew what he'd done, and now they were boxing him in. No choice but compliance or ruin. Claire Benton entered, heels clicking on linoleum. She was the head of human resources, cool and fastidious in a white blouse and charcoal suit. Malik had seen her in passing, a poised white woman who never noticed him gliding across marble lobbies with mop in hand. But now she looked at him with interest, not indifference. "Mr. Rivers," she began, voice soft but her eyes were calculating. "We can avoid further complications here. A simple NDA, $10,000. We process it today, and everything goes back to normal." Normal? Malik thought. Normal meant wiping floors unseen, erased from memory. "I'm not for sale," he said, quietly, refusing. There was power in those words. A refusal was a claim of selfhood. Benton's expression flickered at the rebuke. Claire leaned forward. 10,000 won't hurt. Sign here." She slid a thick packet across the table. "Non-disclosure, non-disparagement, non-compliance if anyone asks. We'll reimburse your cousin's lease later." She mentioned his cousin to confirm she knew. That's when it hit Malik, how far they'd dug. Behind her smile, Claire's tone shifted cold. "We could get ICE involved. Your cousin isn't a US citizen, is he? We'd hate for anything to happen to him, legally. But you see how fragile this is." Malik's jaw tightened. The threat of immigration enforcement hovered in the air like toxic gas. The subtle machinery of corporate racism clicked on full power. He swallowed, steadying himself. The fear for his cousin's safety tightened his fists. Yet he refused to sign. He stayed silent. Long seconds passed. Richard Linton tapped lines in his binder, eyes darting to Malik for some sign of submission. Claire fixed her gaze on the folder labeled "Legal," waiting. But Malik's face was unreadable. The office felt colder. Another subordinate poked his head into the room and whispered something to Claire. She nodded curtly, and he left. A door cracked open behind Malik. Someone shuffled in and out. The feeling of being hunted, dissected, catalogued, all tangible now. Then Claire spoke again, softer, almost kindly. "Look, we don't want to drag this out. This can be resolved quietly, for both sides. No one needs to know what happened." Malik glanced at her sharply. "You silence me. You control me." His voice was quiet but fierce. "I'm not your secret. I'm not your problem to erase." Claire's eyes flicked to Linton, then back. A faint blush touched her cheeks. Surprise, anger, somewhere deep. She seemed disappointed. Perhaps he hadn't played the role expected. Compliant, grateful, quiet. His refusal broke the script. A fresh threat closed in, and not subtle this time. Claire leaned forward and whispered, "We can make things difficult for your daughter at school. You know how people are. A code compliance violation here, a rumor there, her future disappears too." The words hung in the stale air. Malik felt bile rise. Their reach extended far beyond the building's glass walls. To his daughter's school, to rumors, to escalating ruin. The racism in corporate power was not about fists. It was psychological. A chokehold masked as bureaucracy. In that moment, a strange calm surrounded Malik. He realized something vital. They believed they had all power, but they underestimated him. He had the notes. He possessed knowledge. He had the moral high ground. They couldn't control what they didn't already own. He controlled the silence. He chose the next move. He pulled out his phone, pretending his screen was empty. Claire watched. Suddenly Malik pressed record. Light blinking red on the phone. Claire's throat bobbed.
You're recording?
She asked, voice clipped. She tried to mask panic with authority. That's not. Malik stood. Yes, I'm walking out. His military discipline steadied him. He'd recorded their threats, their offers, their intimidation. He stood, palms relaxed, watching as Linton and Claire exchanged glances. I've heard everything, he continued, voice even. Your corporate racism is loud and clear. The threats, the bribes, the ICE leverage. I won't sign, but I will fight. Claire rose slowly, lips pressed. Mr. Rivers, you're making this harder. But her voice lacked conviction. Malik opened the door, walking past Linton, whose face flickered with frustration. Claire said nothing, as he slipped out into the hallway. No escort, no guard, almost as though they wanted him gone quietly. But Malik wasn't gone yet. As the door swung shut behind him, Malik felt a subtle shift in the building's energy. He passed a window and glimpsed a figure across the corridor, a sharply dressed man, in a trench coat, who paused and turned toward him. Malik froze. The man didn't budge, just tilted his head. Malik's instincts flared. This wasn't HR, wasn't security. It was someone tailing him, a private detective perhaps, hired by the company. Malik's mind raced back to Section 2, to the call notes, to the approaching FBI involvement. Now there was another watcher in the wings. He was the story. They knew it, and he had everything recorded. He rounded the corner, making his way down a nearly deserted hallway. Every camera, every emergency exit sign, every sterile white wall seemed alive. Malik felt the weight of their eyes behind the glass. He slowed his pace, pretending nonchalant. The man in the trench coat matched his stride, rounding each corner after him with uncanny precision. Malik's breathing was steady, but inside he tensed. He felt the stale hum of corporate power, of cameras, of spreadsheets and blacklists, of ICE threats and shady offers. They'd thought they could intimidate him into silence. But instead he had a recording and confirmation he was being followed. He reached the reception area again. The night janitor's desk still smoldered with fluorescent hum. No human in sight. Malik looked at his reflection in the glass. A black man in a Hail-Tech uniform, but carrying something far more potent than a mop bucket. Truth encoded in voice data, moral clarity, an unwavering refusal. He turned to leave, wrapping his jacket closer as the cold hit him. In the lobby, lights were dimming for the night. Cleaning carts clattered. The echo of mops against tile filled the vast atrium. He exhaled, emboldened. But before he could exit the revolving door into the dark Chicago air, his phone buzzed. A message popped on screen. You just recorded evidence of intent to expose us. Game changes now. Watch your back. No sender info, only the cryptic threat. Malik's heart thundered, but resolve solidified. He would not cave. But something deeper stirred. An unexpected twist. The message contained an image, a blurred blueprint of a familiar office layout, the one where Claire and Linton interrogated him. But at the very back, in ominous italic, was his name, Malik Rivers, circled in red. It wasn't just corporate retaliation. It was premeditated. They'd scrawled his name on their internal surveillance notes before he'd ever walked into the building. They had planned him, studied him, cataloged him. The realization was more chilling than any threat. He was not merely a liability. They made him the centerpiece of their internal design. Malik swallowed, closing his phone. He pushed open the doors into the night. A stampede of rain beat the city sidewalks. He stood outside for a moment, letting the wind whip around him. His eyes angled upward, where gleaming lights of the skyscraper reflected in glass arteries of steel. The building looked cold, impenetrable, and complicit. He turned his back to it and walked toward the street. The storm clouds above echoed his turmoil, but inside his pocket, the recording reaffirmed his power. They thought he was alone. They thought he could be bought. But he had recording, notes, data, and soon, he hoped, an ally in the FBI. Malik crossed the street in the gloom, footsteps echoing. Behind him, a silhouette paused under the building's security camera glow. The private detective, the man's head flew up, staring directly at him, through the glass. Malik didn't look back. He didn't need to. He stepped into the rain, and melted into the stormy night. As the rain soaked his jacket, Malik activated the recording again. In the background, barely audible, a different voice, someone whispering Claire Benton's name, followed by the sound of footsteps approaching. The phone glowed in Malik's hand. Jonathan Hale calling. Malik stared at the screen, pulse constricting. Everything shifted in that moment. The CEO of Hale Tech reaching out directly meant the scandal had cut too close to the corporate center. He took a breath and answered, "Mr. Rivers, this is Jonathan Hale." The voice was smooth, cultured, almost comforting, but cold, distant. Malik swallowed. Jonathan's tone implied confidence. He was in control. Malik remained silent a moment before replying, "Mr. Hale, what do you want?" The CEO replied with practiced ease. "I'd like to discuss resolution," he said. "Discretion is vital for both of us. I propose a path. Work with me directly to quiet these issues." The offer stunned. Not threats but invitation. "I can offer you six-figure compensation," Jonathan continued. "A position as diversity compliance officer at Hale Tech. You oversee internal reforms quietly. We're both men of progress. Let's work constructively." Malik's jaw tightened. 6 figures were far more than he'd ever earned cleaning floors. But the title diversity officer felt performative, symbolic, and dangerously superficial. A black face in leadership to deflect criticism. A corporate puppet. Malik's mind looped back to the NDA threats and ICE intimidation. This felt eerily similar promotion as erasure. He answered carefully, "I appreciate the offer, Mr. Hale. But I'm not interested in a symbolic title. I'm interested in structural justice." Silence followed. Hale inhaled audibly. "I understand your hesitation. But imagine implementing change from inside. Influence policy. Expose wrongdoing. If you play this well, you could reshape everything." Malik paused. His knee-jerk reaction sought righteous indignation. But the temptation to get inside was nearly overwhelming. Could he use that platform to dismantle corporate racism, or would he become invisible, swallowed by bureaucracy? The conversation stretched thin in tension. Finally, Jonathan said softly, "Your daughter, your name. It doesn't have to suffer. You can control the narrative. I'm giving you an opportunity for both visibility and invisibility." The subtle nuance stung. Malik responded in a tone both measured and wary. "I'll consider, but terms must be clear. No gag order. I need access document vaults, internal communications, blacklists. I must report directly to you, with immunity for past actions." He held his breath. There was a pause so long Malik could hear his own heartbeat. The phone speaker hummed. Then Jonathan sighed. "Agreed. I will authorize your access. Our general counsel will draw the contract. I'll send over everything by end of week. If we do this, we do it cleanly." Malik hung up slowly. He stared at the blank screen. Part of him recoiled. Part stood at attention. He thought of Simone's suspension, the viral video, the school, the FBI deal he'd tentatively agreed to. The prison of corporate PR and legal privilege hovered. The risk of co-option was immense, but so was the chance to expose from within. By Monday, he received a sleek emailed PDF titled Offer Letter, Malik Rivers, titled Chief Diversity and Compliance Officer. Salary 6 figures. Responsibilities: oversee diversity trainings, audit global contracts, liaise with international clients. He rolled his eyes. He'd seen the scripts before, but buried in the fine print clause, granting him full access to executive-level folders, and a direct reporting line to Jonathan Hale. A slim clause granting partial subpoena dissent authority. The NDA was notably absent. He scrolled up, half expecting punishment. There were none. No gag, no threats. He followed his gut. He accepted via reply. The language was crisp. "I accept your offer under the conditions we've discussed. I reserve the right to expose wrongdoing per stated access." He hit send. His heart rattled when the confirmation pinged. "Welcome aboard." He stared at the words. He'd infiltrated the machine. Now the machine held him. Ethical stakes pulsed. On his first day, Malik entered Hale Tech's headquarters again, this time escorted into Jonathan Hale's private office. The space was sleek, minimalistic glass walls overlooking the Chicago skyline. Jonathan stood to greet him. Suave, calculated, racially aloof in immaculate tailoring. He offered a firm handshake. "Welcome, Mr. Rivers. I look forward to working together." Malik nodded. "Thank you. I intend to deliver." He stepped inside, determined, cautious. Hale offered him a binder labeled Corporate Integrity, scripts for press responses, client statements, apology templates. The irony wasn't lost. Behind the binder was a keycard granting executive access. Malik's stomach tightened. He took the card, breath shallow. He'd entered their world by surrendering nothing to his surprise. They surrendered the gag. 2 days in, he scrolled through corporate folders, attending induction meetings, diversity workshops, sans diversity. He listened to managers recite inclusive language drills, while memo after memo circulated about risk management. But late one evening, after the building emptied, he slipped into the digital data core to explore deeper. He stumbled onto a hidden directory, Malik.docx. His name, bolded, labeled as a project. A folder containing typed exec summaries, surveillance logs, email transcripts, and internal memos. He double-clicked. Inside were spreadsheets of non-blacklisted clients, flagged individuals. Malik at top with tags high risk, covert executive, foreign contracts. Email threads between HR and powerful execs, discussing using his identity to operationally insulate executives. Contracts referencing contracts he never saw. A PDF named Scapegoat Strategy, noting deploy River's identity in sensitive shipments, feign executive involvement if crisis. Malik stared. The cold machinery of racial exploitation unveiled. They'd planned him. They'd built him in secret. Every racial exploit, coded script, they'd built this using his identity as shield. He closed the file, trembling. He reread lines. Engage client Bahari only through proxy Rivers. Track communication logs to minimize forensic breach. Post-crisis, plausible deniability. Rivers sacrificed. Press spun. He swallowed. They assumed he'd fall in line. They mapped his life without consent. Emotions spiraled. Betrayal. Grief. Righteous fury. This folder was more than dirty data. It was confession. The twist burned. He'd walked into the project he'd always refused. Not as janitor but as executive asset. Irony branded him further. He saved a copy off-site, encrypted to protect from remote deletion. He felt he'd found the core of their racial corruption. He realized this access granted meant exposure. He could leak this to media, to FBI, to world. But the cost, Simone, his family, his security throbbed. That night he called Kareem and Tariq. He relayed the discovery. Kareem's voice trembled. This is confirmation, not allegations. We have everything. Tariq sounded both fearful and proud. You knew the risk. But this is bigger than us now. You have the folder, expose it. But carefully. He slept warily. The next morning, he dressed in corporate casual, tie loosened, eyes resolute. He walked through the gleaming lobby, scanning faces. HR, legal, exec assistants, all unaware. A guard nodded politely. He smiled politely back. At lunchtime, an urgent call came from the journalist contact. They'd extracted proof of his identity leak, plus social board posts. They asked, "Are you ready to go live?" He replied, "Not yet. I need more." The timing would matter. He spent the afternoon auditing internal compliance teams. Most were hollow. Focus groups performed without intent. Surveys went nowhere. But then he read an internal memo from legal. Secure any future external leaks, prioritize containment. The tone was desperate. They were trying to stem the flood. Malik sat at an empty conference table. Files spread before him. Kareem's contracts, video leak documentation, screenshots from the internal data dump folder. He felt both triumphant and vulnerable. He had dirt on everyone, but everyone had power. Lawyers, PR team. He drank his coffee. Bitter burn. He thought of Simone's quiet room, her silent pen strokes. He thought of his father's beaten body. He thought of the greenback corporate empire built on his stolen credentials. The gravity pressed. He balanced the decision. Leak now, and risk everything. Or wait until more people are ready. Just as he closed his laptop on a note, his direct report chat pinged from Jonathan Hale. "I need to see you in my office at 5 p.m. today." Malik sat up, unsettling ripple. Was unrest brewing? Did they suspect him? Was this orchestrated meeting a trap, or olive branch? The timing felt off. Only hours after he found the Malik.ex folder, and hours before he'd planned next move. A revelation crashed in. They might already know he accessed it. His surveillance logs might track accesses via his keycard. They might monitor him in real time. His secret leaks may have triggered an alert. He had to prepare for any outcome. But one thing was clear, he'd gone deeper than he'd planned. He had to hold. As the clock ticked toward 5 p.m., Malik approached Jonathan's glass door office. The door was slightly ajar, and inside Jonathan Hale was not alone. Sitting across from him, Claire Benton, Richard Linton, and an unfamiliar man, a high-level executive with a foreign accent. They looked up. Jonathan smiled thinly as Malik entered. Silence followed. Even as Malik walked toward Jonathan Hale's glass door office that day, his nerves buzzed. Just hours earlier, he'd peeked inside the digital vault and discovered the folder Malik.okx names, charts, surveillance logs, memos, even scandalous spreadsheets. He had copy-saved everything offline, encrypted it, and prepared mentally for the next move. But as he opened the door and confronted Hale with Claire Benton, Richard Linton, and a foreign-faced executive, he knew the stakes had vaulted higher. Hale motioned toward the windowed boardroom inside. "Sit," he said calmly, voice brittle. Malik took a seat, glancing sideways at Claire, cool and collected, yet guarded. Linton gave no emotion. The foreign exec, thin, dark-eyed, silent, watched Malik like a dossier come to life. The hush grew unbearable. Hale leaned forward. "Mr. Rivers," he began, "or have you reverted to your given name, Malik?" Malik kept his face still. "Whatever you'd like to call me," he said softly. Hale turned his gaze to Claire. "Explain the significance of that folder." Claire's lips curved, just enough to signal control. She started. "The document you discovered contains internal data. We cannot deny its existence. It's our contingency documentation, surveillance logs, shell company rosters, risk assessments." She paused, eyes cold. "It's not malicious. We protect the company." Malik inhaled. "Protect the company," he repeated. "By targeting a black man, me as a scapegoat. That's not protection. That's racism engineered." Every word sliced tension. The room felt brittle. And then came the twist. Claire smirked. "The algorithm flagged you in advance," she said, voice calm. "You were on our high-risk hires list because of your race, your Gulf War history, your activism. It was predictive but not discriminatory." She paused. "A trained lie. We used you because you were eligible for deniability. That's efficiency." Malik's blood pounded. They had algorithmically selected him for sacrifice. The racist profiling was baked in code. "I want to see every spreadsheet," Malik demanded. Claire refused to look away. After a moment, she slid over a report, rows and columns indicating race, veteran status, socioeconomic profile, and a weighted score called scapegoat vulnerability. At the top of that list was Malik, score flagged 1.0, ideal fallout candidate. The spreadsheet also named others: minority janitors, whistleblowers, ex-employees. This was Hell's design sheet. Malik opened his encrypted backup and compared. They matched line for line. The corporate algorithm, cold, objective, racist by design. He realized this wasn't oversight. It was intentional. A cold intelligence matrix to classify human beings by race and positional risk, and plug the high-risk ones into criminal scapegoating schemes. He rose slowly, voice steady but raging. "You profiled me before I even knew. You weaponized my identity. You placed me in a black hole planned for it." He set Claire and Linton's record straight with facts. "This is confession. I'm leaking it." He stepped toward the foreign executive, sleek in a tailored suit, and demanded, "Who are you?" The man lowered his eyes and spoke in measured English. "I represent global partners tied to our shell networks, the ones who fund us if the scandal remains contained." Malik glared, greed and cowardice echoing in that voice. From his pocket, Malik activated his phone recorder. While the exec sputtered rehearsed excuses, Claire said simply, "We protect the company, no matter what." The phrase cut through the pretenses. He recorded everything. They made no effort to stop him. Perhaps they assumed he was trapped. Malik left the room with clear purpose. Back at his small apartment, despite exhaustion, Malik arranged his evidence. Flash drives, encrypted files, screenshots, interview notes. He constructed a plan, leaked to a network of trusted journalists first, those who had engaged already, then via a broader press release, timed to school board hearing and Hailtech's upcoming quarterly earnings call. He mapped a timeline, drop on a Tuesday afternoon, when markets opened in London and press cycles surged. He reached out to Kareem. Virtually every method he had. No reply. The royal liaison was missing. The number went unanswered. The last message Kareem sent. They're watching me. Malik's stomach dropped. Not contact was worse than resistance. During the plan calls with his brother Tariq and journalists, the patterns emerged, negative signals when discussing Kareem. He wasn't safe. His vanishing created a vacuum, a ghost in the story. Malik pressed his journalist contact, find him, confirm he's okay. They promised they'd try. Tracking royalty across borders was slow, but dangerous signals arose. Legal threats, diplomatic whistles. The day before his planned leak, Malik got an anonymous email. No signature. A video file titled Bahari CIA site.mp4. Malik opened it in encrypted viewer proprietary to investigative journalists. It showed Kareem in isolation. A dark, concrete cell. Blacked out windows. He wore a pale jumpsuit. He was shackled. No sound. The camera pan circled slowly. Footage grainy. Ominous. Then he saw a guard out of focus. Face masked. The tag stamped Corp classified. Not CIA. Hail Tech initials etched on the wall. Malik froze. Dead silence. Then text on screen. Demo footage. Subject Bahari. Obey NDA. The message slammed in. Someone inside Hail Tech or state apparatus had sent proof. Kareem was detained in a corporate black site. That meant global reach. Political entanglement. The stakes skyrocketed. He realized one more thing. This meant Hail Tech's network extended into clandestine operations. Black site detention. A foreign liaison who trusted them is now disappeared into corporate-state collaboration. The scandal was no longer business. It was political kidnapping. Malik sat trembling in his dim apartment. The algorithm, the profiling, the surveillance, his identity stolen. Now his trusted ally detained somewhere in secret custody. Rage and grief coalesced. His daughter's suspension still hung dangerously over him. He thought of Simone's silent pen strokes. A father's world teetered on exposure and loss. He typed furiously at his laptop. An internal memo to share with journalists. Encrypted files transferred. A press contact list updated. He drafted his statement. My name is Malik Rivers. I was groomed, weaponized, and scapegoat. I will no longer be the faceless janitor who answers when billion-dollar shipments go missing. They built me so they could burn me. It felt cathartic, like pouring molten truth. He closed his eyes. The phone buzzed. It was the journalist. We have confirmation of Bahari disappearance. Do you want to proceed tomorrow? Malik typed back. Yes. Drop leaks. Simultaneously file FOIA requests. Protect Simone. Roll. He prepared partial press embargo until drop time, but internal documents showed global investors on call tomorrow morning. Impact would be immediate. Legal, public, financial. At midnight, Malik woke to a knock at the door. Not bump, but deliberate. He froze. He dialed Tariq's number silently as he moved toward the door. Before he could answer, his phone went dead. Tariq didn't pick up. He peeked through the peephole. It showed nobody, but then camera feed on his laptop screen glitched. A live feed from his apartment's front door camera appeared. Someone wearing a security uniform with the Hail Tech logo removed his shoes and rifled through packages outside. They zoomed in and noticed the feed, but the intruder vanished in lightning speed. Malik ripped open the door, but no sign. The intrusion meant someone was watching. No assume. They'd been tracking his encrypted leak. They knew. Worse, they had physical access. Heartbeat hammering. He shut the door quietly. He realized. The folder leaks might be imminent, but now he was under watch more than ever. He glanced at the encrypted backups. The time was 2:13 a.m. Dawn would bring renewal or reckoning. As Malik sat at his desk, laptop open, leak file pending final go live, his phone buzzed again, with an encrypted message. You think you're safe. You're inside now. You leak. We expose your daughter. We expose Simone. The message was tagged, Hail Tech Legal. Silence descended. Malik woke before dawn, haunted by threats, leaks, and distant shadows. His apartment felt less like a sanctuary and more like a command center under siege. The intrusion, the live camera feed, the explicit message about Simone. It had shaken him. Yet the scheduled leak date loomed. Each decision now rippled across worlds. Corporate boardrooms, government intelligence, and international media. He felt trapped between three powerful currents and uncertain which would drown him first. He opened his inbox. Several new messages marked official looking. He steeled himself and clicked the first. It contained a death threat disguised as legal boilerplate. Typed in formal font, cease dissemination of proprietary documents immediately. Non-compliance will invoke legal and extra-legal response. No signature, just the Hailtech legal domain stamped below. Another followed, similar text but repackaged. The strategy was clear: bury him in terror cloaked as law. His breath hitched. These weren't attacks from fringe trolls, they were designed by professionals with budgets and lawyers. This was intimidation with the veneer of jurisprudence. As he considered the threats, a different message pinged. Subject line: "We saw your upload." From an anonymous account. In the message body: "We can help you. We are watching. Your father's legacy depends on your move." There was a link, a dark web address. No demand, just a promise of assistance. Malik leaned back. Hacker groups. Some saw Hailtech as a threat to global justice, but their anonymity made them dangerous too. He hesitated. Then he replied with caution: "Prove trust." Seconds later, a response: "Your father was one of us. He broke one of their first big cases. We can provide video logs of Kareem's location, torture, and suppressed comms if you divulge nothing further to press yet." The reference stunned him. His father, the civil rights journalist, had indeed exposed corrupt practices decades ago. Malik's chest tightened. Someone inside recognized that bloodline. The group trusted him, or believed they could speak with him. The hacker group included digital proof, grainy, time-stamped logs of Kareem's satellite communication, bizarre metadata showing forced transfers through unregistered black site IPs. They even had images of detainee ID tags matching Kareem's name. Everything confirmed. Kareem was alive, in custody, and suffering. Their help felt authenticated but also invasive. The question tore at him: did he owe them truth? Or would he trade autonomy for leverage? He packaged the data logs, cross-referenced with the CIA-style footage sent earlier. He compared notes with documents already lined up for press release. The hacker data was consistent and chilling. Audio files purportedly from Kareem, suffering and whispering pleas. He considered playing it to journalists, but hesitated. Simone's safety weighed heavily. If he released too much, he risked drawing the MCP military corporate political backlash toward his family. He spent hours talking with Tariq, dark conversations echoing their father's memory. Tariq worried, but respected Malik's caution. "They want your exposure. Don't be the vector. Let us feed red herrings. Divert them." Together they built digital decoys, false leak scripts suggesting they were ready to file suit, first baiting Hailtech's legal machine to reveal itself. Meanwhile, foreign investors began circling. Malik received messages from offshore entities, diplomats, and shell company intermediaries, requesting meetings. They wanted assurances of company stability. If Hailtech collapsed, they'd lose billions. They saw Malik's revelations as threats to markets. They offered hush money via intermediaries. Malik understood it. Financial empires perched on Hailtech's silence. He was now a pawn. Corporate spin, FBI oversight, digital activism. It converged around him. The narrative was no longer about janitor turned executive, but geopolitical power plays. He felt small and finite inside that vortex. Early afternoon arrived. Malik opened his laptop and integrated all data files, video, contracts, spreadsheets, logs, audio, to produce an encrypted press packet. He sent it to 5 major international news organizations: The Guardian, BBC, New York Times, Der Spiegel, and Al Jazeera. The press embargo was set to lift at 6 p.m. UTC. He requested proof of reception and promised exclusivity. He copied the files to cloud backup with layered encryption, prepared a physical drive in his safe. He also sent protective emails to his lawyer contact and Tariq, with instructions on what to do if he disappeared, safe deposit release protocols. Then his phone rang. The hacker group again. They said, "Proceed. We have Kareem's last voice clip attached to tonight's packet. The world will hear him." Malik hesitated, but agreed. The final file circulated. The deadline seconds approached. 6 p.m. UTC. Malik pressed send with trembling certainty. He felt a gust of liberation and fear ripple through his chest. At 6 p.m. UTC, the press packages unlocked. Stories broke simultaneously worldwide. Newsrooms screamed, "Billion-dollar scandal. Hailtech ran racial blacklist project. Scapegoated whistleblower. Janitor. Middle Eastern royal detainee linked to U.S. tech firm. Torture alleged." Employees witnessed internal algorithm ranks Africans as high risk. On social media, hashtags, #tech files, stand with Malik, free Kareem lit up timelines. Reactions flooded, from outrage to geopolitical alarm. Meanwhile, markets shuddered. Hailtech stock dove. International trade partners suspended contracts. Lawmakers in Congress demanded hearings about racial profiling, algorithmic hiring bias, foreign whistleblower torture. In the UK and EU, regulators opened investigations. Hailtech's PR machine was on fire. Malik stood by his window, watching the city transitions from evening lights to media vans, helicopters overhead, shadows of drones. Reporters began converging outside his building. He watched news bulletins showing his real face revealed as the whistleblower, not janitor, but former diversity officer. And then came the twist. He received a text, not from journalists, not from hackers, not from bankers, but from an unexpected source. Kareem. A message read, "I am alive. I was moved. I'm being held by state. They offer release, if I sign a statement, buying your silence." The message ended with coordinates and a time. Malik's hands shook. Isolation shattered. Investors, FBI, corporate PR now all squaring off. His family, his daughter, evident focus, but Kareem's voice bleeding magnetism mattered most. They offered a deal, his silence for Kareem's freedom. He stared at the text. The world watched him. The global press cycle had exposed Hailtech. But this deal offered a moral crossroads. Release Kareem, but bury the truth, or refuse, and risk losing him, or worse. The pressure claw. Simone's school board meeting was underway. Malik watched live stream on his laptop, members debating whether to reinstate Simone. The public support had grown so powerful that pressure mounted to rescind her suspension. A lawyer appeared beside Malik's unit, a legal counsel from the civil rights firm texting updates, board poised to vote in her favor. Yet another blast email pinged from Hailtech Legal again, threatening defamation lawsuits, offering Malik a financial settlement if he recanted. They stamped confidential, settlement offer enclosed 1.3 million. But they also added, "We cannot guarantee Simone's safety if you proceed." The same cold calculus threat, compensation, behavioral control. Malik paused. He scrolled through press coverage, his photo, his daughter's, Simone's story amplified. Journalists wanted interviews with Simone. A news producer from PBS asked for a sit-down. He hesitated. Simone was only 12. A public appearance could traumatize her for better or worse. He looked at the timestamp in Kareem's message. Coordinate pin on a remote compound. Alien and threatening. He responded only, "Fine. But I don't bargain." No further comment. He received a sudden zip file titled Personnel FBI Contact.zip from an unknown address. Inside, names and emails of federal agents tied to the Hailtech investigation. Deep inside FBI teams stood people sympathetic to Malik's cause. Agents collected sordid dark data, watching PR teams within the bureau. They offered discreet protection for Simone if he provided full evidence. There was no official seal, but contact data suggested legitimacy. Agent IDs, email headers matched .dob domains. Now Malik's network spanned hacker allies, press, legal, family, and elements of the FBI on his side. But they were shadows, unofficial, behind the scenes. He carried a network of ghosts, all hoping he stayed alive long enough to speak truth. Malik sat back in his chair when his phone buzzed again. This time it was Simone. Text message, "Dad, they're reinstating me. They say I was right. Thank you." Relief washed over him. Hope flickered. Maybe there was redemption for their family. He called Tariq. They call a press conference for tomorrow morning. But Kareem's message, Tariq interrupted. "You sealed the leak. Your identity's out. But this deal is colonial exchange. You must not sign away truth. Use the FBI contact. Protect Simone. Find safe extraction for Kareem. Let the world see this." He agreed. He pulled open his email and wrote to the FBI contact. "I accept limited protection per our discussion. I'm sending the full data dump, metadata, logs, folders, contacts, and coordinates of Bahari location I got. Protect Simone. And him." He hit send. Minutes later, Malik's phone lit up again, with a flash message from the anonymous hacker group. "We just intercepted live footage. Kareem is on camera but not alone. He's being transferred by federal agents. Not Hague or UN, but shadowed agents. He's inside a leaking plane interior. It's him climbing aboard, and he looks at the window and sees you. He knows you exposed him. The final frame showed Kareem's eyes locking sight with someone, understanding everything. Malik's breath caught. Within hours of the leak hitting global press, Malik Rivers became a household name. News anchors across the networks debated him bitterly. Some hailed him as a hero who exposed deep racism and corruption. Others branded him a national traitor who jeopardized corporate interests and international diplomacy. The divide was stark and public. Hero janitor versus traitor, moral whistleblower versus reckless saboteur. On Twitter, TikTok, Instagram, and Facebook, his face, once anonymous in a janitor's uniform, became iconic. In one clip, Simone's quiet defiance flashed across TV screens. Her calm voice in the hallway video reverberated. Millions watched, shared, commented. "This is what justice looks like," one tweet read. "This man saved us all from algorithmic oppression," another proclaimed. But other posts surfaced. "He leaked confidential corporate data. He endangered a royal client in U.S. foreign diplomacy." The tension in public perception felt like a nation at a crossroads. Inside their local neighborhood, harassment followed. Simone's classmates whispered behind her back, called her father a traitor. Racist slurs lingered in school hallways. Malik noticed Simone flinch when a delivery driver at their apartment stepped inside. The public fight had infiltrated private sanctuary. Malik tried to remain stoic, but at night he found himself holding her hand, trembling. Their landlord gave them 24-hour notice. No explanation, just a polite eviction notice, stating lease terminated due to violation of terms. Malik suspected pressure, corporate legal teams, intimidation campaigns in disguise. They packed what they could hold. Simone sobbed quietly as they left Bronzeville. Their apartment contained memories, Simone's school drawings, his father's old press credentials, their shared photos. Now everything felt exposed. But a counter-movement had erupted. Clean Truth. Groups and activists organized around Malik's story. On online streaming platforms, organizers live-streamed rallies under the banner Clean Truth, demanding transparency at Hale Tech, reparations for racial profiling, abolition of discriminatory corporate algorithms. Thousands showed in city squares. Chicago, New York, London, Berlin, people chanting morality over monopoly. Clean Truth now. Grassroots energy leaned toward movement, not moment. Malik watched the movement unfold from a rented Airbnb, remote and protected. He received videos of protesters holding signs that read, "Not disposable. Algorithms should not decide our fate," and Hale Tech ding one in racist blacklists. Clean Truth organizers posted footage of Simone's school incident and his father's activism legacy, highlighting the generational fight for equity and truth. In the national spotlight, Jonathan Hale appeared on CNN. The glare of lights turned his face harsh. The anchor pressed him. "Mr. Hale, your company conducted racial profiling and set up a scapegoating algorithm, according to internal documents." Hale leaned in with authority. "No, this is disinformation from a rogue ex-employee who stole sensitive data. We denounce these leaks. We are cooperating with authorities." He framed Malik as a disgruntled whistleblower, angry at being passed over. It was a calculated brand of denial. Malik watched, seething. The irony, he accepted a role. They gave him access. He followed rules, only to be accused publicly of theft and mistrust. But the next move changed everything. He released a video clip from the Malik Duckix folder of Hale, personally in a private meeting, recorded saying, "We place him to fall. We protect the company at all costs." Hale's confession had escape proof. His admission of a plan to weaponize a black man. The impact was seismic. Within minutes, that clip went viral. CNN's Hale changed tone. He shifted defensively. Viewers gasped. The executive spokespeople in the segment froze. A hush in the studio. The confession video exploded. Clean Truth tweeted it. Investigations had reached critical mass. Meanwhile, Simone's school board reconvened. Public pressure, national controversy, and legal letters forced its hand. Black parents, civil rights organizations, and student groups joined protests at the school board. The board reversed its decision. Simone's suspension was officially expunged. She was credited with acting in defense of a student. Formal apologies came from the principal. Scholars called it a turning point in recognizing racial bias in disciplinary policy. Malik watched the livestream emotionally, seeing Simone rubbing her arms in calm relief. Yet backlash continued. A conservative outlet published that the leak endangered Kareem's safety and could strain U.S.-Middle East relations. Stock analysts predicted Hailtech stock plummeting further. Morgan Stanley reportedly downgraded Hailtech's rating, citing command center leaks and liability for racial profiling litigation. The Clean Truth Movement broadcast nightly roundtables. Malik, still in hiding, joined via encrypted video. His face appeared grainy but resolute. He urged audience members to demand policy frameworks banning race-based profiling in corporate algorithmic systems, to lobby for a federal inquiry into automated hiring and risk systems. Overhead, the skies echoed sirens. Beyond the protests, inside a congressional hearing room, lawmakers deposed experts on racial algorithmic bias. Juliana Green, a tech ethicist, testified, Hailtech's project is textbook dehumanization masked by data science. Reporters in the hearing room held signs, "Clean truth in the code." Meanwhile, Jonathan Hale and his board held covert meetings. News reports hinted at internal fissures. Some execs wanted to settle quietly. Others warned full denial could sink them. Federal regulators in filing notices suggested possible violations of Civil Rights Act in hiring process and potential SEC fraud for failing to disclose material risks. Analysts speculated that Hailtech's quarterly earnings call the next day could implode. Malik, watching all of this unfold, felt the emotional tidal wave crash over him. Relief, pride, fear, grief. Simone stood beside him, in their new modest Airbnb, clutching a framed drawing of Malik, cleaning floors under the title, "My Hero." Tears ran down both their faces as they watched Hale's confession clip once more. Then came the unexpected twist. Malik's phone buzzed with a message from a known investigative journalist. "SEC just opened formal criminal proceedings against Hailtech. Do you want to make a statement?" Malik exhaled. He watched the SEC's official filing come through, as a PDF charges included conspiracy to defraud investors by hiding algorithmic misconduct, racial discrimination leading to wrongful scapegoating, obstruction of whistleblower protection statutes. The news rippled the screen. Clean Truth organizers cheered online. Civil rights lawyers opened case offers. Stock price warnings flashed. Simone hugged her dad. "You did the right thing." He kissed her temple. Relief mingled with dread. The fight had started, but it was far from over. Just as the news hit, Malik's phone screen lit again, this time a live video call. The caller ID was blank, but the silhouette of a woman appeared, her face pixelated, voice distorted. She whispered, "They're not only suing, they're targeting you. Your lawyer just got disbarred. Someone leaked your safety protocols to investors. You're exposed, and so is Simone." The feed cuts. Silent. Malik Rivers' phone rang early that morning. Legal counsel calling to say he'd been formally subpoenaed. The documents were crisp, formal. Court was scheduled in 2 days at the federal courthouse downtown. He stared at the papers. The case had escalated into criminal proceedings against Hailtech, and he was summoned as a witness and potential defendant. The gravity settled like concrete. He put the subpoena aside, inhaled deeply, and steeled himself. There would be no running now. Stepping into the courthouse, Malik felt the familiar weight of scrutiny. The marble hallways echoed with statements of authority. His badge of honor, Gulf War Service, IT credentials had already been weaponized by opposing counsel. But today he stepped in, not as an outsider but as truth incarnate. Inside the courtroom, the jury sat beneath lighting that felt intentionally clinical. Opposing counsel, Hailtech's general legal team, arrived in tailored suits, controlled smiles. The lead prosecutor sat opposite, notebook open. The gallery overflowed with reporters and activists wearing Clean Truth pins. The press bench buzzed. When Malik was sworn in, opposing counsel began immediately. With calm rigor, they questioned his past, the janitor job, his lost corporate credentials, his so-called radical brother. Subtle racial innuendo cropped up, implying that a struggling black man might harbor resentment, that his daughter's school suspension colored his testimony. They dredged up his military record, twisting PTSD references to plant a shadow of instability. Malik answered softly but firmly. Each question met with composed poise. "Yes, I served honorably. No, I do not harbor bitterness. My daughter acted with bravery." Jurors exchanged glances. His steady voice, dignified bearing, and refusal to shrink strengthened his presence under pressure. When Claire Benton was called, the atmosphere snapped taut. She sat across from Malik, regal in posture. Under oath she was asked, Do you deny the existence of the racial blacklist algorithm? She cleared her throat, hesitated a heartbeat, then spoke with brittle neutrality. No, it exists. We used it to score employee risk profiles along race, veteran status, socioeconomic background. Gasps echoed. Opposing counsel stormed in. Objection. The judge, stern-faced and unbothered by political pressure, overruled. Claire had admitted the central harm, further elicited details. She confirmed that Malik's name was high risk, that he was pre-flagged for strategic sacrifice, provided confirmation the secret folder Malik, Doc X, was real, and discussed in executive meetings. Malik sat forward, absorbing the confirmation, internal confession under oath. He felt vindicated, but the damage had already reached his daughter, his home. He leaned slightly back, leaving room to breathe. Claire's testimony had removed the veil. Next came Kareem Bahari's testimony. For the first time public, satellite link connected him from an undisclosed diplomatic location. On screen his face was pale, haunted, but present. He recounted how Heltec had misled him, used Malik's identity in contracts, and then detained him in a black site when he protested. Kareem's voice, though cracked, carried weight. They said they'd fix the shipment. They said they'd pay restitution. They never did. Instead, I was disappeared. His diplomat's accent trembled. Viewers in the gallery leaned in. Activist lawyers wept discreetly. Journalists scribbled. This testimony shifted the event from corporate scandal to state crime. With world leaders and media watching, the courtroom became global theater. Cameras unblinded Malik's face across international news. He was no longer just a face on screen. He was the moral center of the trial. Clean truth activist. Projected live protest footage outside Courthouse Plaza via LED screens. Malik was asked to read the algorithm's inner memos in court. Scapegoat strategy. High-risk candidate list. Projected fallout path. He laid out the logic that planned his life invisibly. Jurors took notes. Some strode into recess visibly unsettled. Outside, protesters chanted, "Human lives, not algorithms." Heltec lied. Truth survived. The optics pushed legal momentum. Inside, Malik's testimony remained razor-sharp, his composure refusing to bow to racial smears or procedural ambush. In the middle of proceedings, an unforeseen twist emerged. During cross-examination, opposing counsel tried to introduce an audio clip attributed to Kareem. They played it over speakers. It was a doctored snippet, where a voice resembling Kareem sounded distress. The goal undermined Kareem's credibility. But Malik, having preserved the original full audio, stood and quietly requested playback of the full file. The judge allowed. The original clip replaced the doctored snippet. Kareem's voice remained consistent, his distress real. The court watched the manipulation unfold. Jurors whispered. The credibility of Heltec's attorneys collapsed further. In that moment, Malik's truth overcame subterfuge. After Claire's and Kareem's testimony, closing arguments approached. Malik sat at counsel table with his legal team, and Tariq present in the gallery, eyes soft with pride and hope, as defense lawyers recited legal disclaimers, Maltese phrases of caution. Malik closed his eyes. He pictured Simone drawing pictures, hugging him, his father's battered body in memory. He saw the movement growing, and felt both strength and fragile fear. The jury instructions read, evaluate evidence on racial profiling, corporate intent, algorithmic misconduct, and whether those harmed like Malik and Kareem were victims or villains. Malik mentally prepared. He was called up one final time. In a quiet moment, he spoke directly to jurors. I came forward not for vengeance or money. I came forward because my name, my life was used as an experiment in dehumanization. I lost my daughter's school. I lost my home. But I gained a chance to tell the world I refused to disappear. If you agree, let truth have its voice. Voices trembled. Tears glimmered. Observers leaned in. The jury retired to deliberate. Hours passed. Courtroom lights dimmed. The press gallery murmured. Clean Truth legal teams felt victory nearing. But then an ominous update crackled in Malik's counsel's earpiece. Your daughter Simone has called someone at your attorney's office, sends video. They identified a juror texting with a known Heltec executive. Malik froze. A juror supposed to be impartial was texting real-time with a Heltec agent. Tampering was underway. The process might be compromised. Corruption had dug into the judge's chamber. Malik shut his eyes. He recognized the script, from janitor to whistleblower, to CEO's puppet. In all, it was racial systems trying to squeeze out his justice. Now inside the courthouse, the same forces threatened to manipulate verdict. The courtroom door opened abruptly. The judge announced he had just received a motion. Challenge to jury impartiality. The gallery gasped. Malik's lawyer motioned over to him. In a hush, he leaned in and whispered, "There's evidence one juror is on server logs messaging Linton's proxy from her phone during deliberations." The judge banged the gavel. "Let me hear the objection." Malik's heart thundered as the courtroom held its breath. The trial and fate of justice ran on a knife's edge. The hush in the courtroom swelled like a held breath. Lawyers filed documents. Technicians updated juror records. Then the judge rose, face grave. Standing center, she began, "I must declare a mistrial." Shockwaves rippled. The entire gallery stiffened. Malik felt the ground shift. The legal fix had slipped. Justice had stumbled. Outside the courthouse, the mood exploded. Protesters who had waited hours flooded the plaza when news spread. Mistrial. They threw it out. Signs flew into the air. Justice delayed is justice denied. Blind justice wears white. Demonstrators joined hands, chanted clean truth now. Emotions churned. Elation, anger, exhaustion, resistance energy flared. Malik, escorted by his legal team, walked through the press scrum. Reporters shouted, "Mr. Rivers, what next?" He paused, voice steady but weary. "The law failed us today. But the people did not. Truth is not on a jury sheet. It is collective." He stepped into an SUV, the roar of chants trailing behind. On TV screens, commentators debated. Some anchors portrayed Malik as tragic hero, betrayed by a corrupt system. Others called him vigilante, warning that leaking confidential data set dangerous precedent. Editorials split. Corporate cover-ups versus whistleblower gone rogue. A pundit on a conservative channel snarled, "If he wanted justice, why leak everything instead of waiting for due process?" Another segment on public radio glowed, "When our institutions won't protect us, conscience becomes action." Inside virtual newsrooms, analysts argued, public trust versus rule of law. Headlines showed both Hail Tech scandal rocks the world, and legal technicalities let Rama suck off hook. The mistrial had undermined the movement's legal victory, but also galvanized populist support. In response, Clean Truth's leadership launched a strategy, a nationwide economic boycott, targeting Hail Tech's products. Activist networks called for divestment from companies using their tech. Social media influencers promoted the tag "Done Boycott Hail Tech." The founder of Clean Truth, Stan Lewis, announced, "The court may fail us, but people wield markets." Major universities canceled procurement contracts with Hail Tech. Municipalities paused projects. Even federal agencies indicated they would freeze new bids pending investigation. Blacklisting algorithms sparked outrage, and investors reacted. By the next morning, Hail Tech stock charts violently oscillated. The ticker dropped, then plunged 18% in pre-market trades. Financial news flash: Hail Tech falls on racial scandal. Mistrial raises governance concerns. Analysts called for risk reevaluation. Institutional investors issued withdrawal notices. Sovereign funds froze payments. One finance outlet termed it market judgment, ethics over earnings. In the investor conference call, board members sounded defensive. "We are evaluating all legal options. We remain committed to integrity." Yet admissions of blacklists and leaked CEO confession footage undermined credibility. Hedge funds reportedly shorted the company overnight. Amid chaos, Malik received a surprise invitation, a TED Talk slot at a major conference in Vancouver. Tempted, he accepted. Days later, he stepped onto the stage, under red circle light. Cameras rolled. He recounted his journey, cleaning floors while knowing inside knowledge. Racial profiling algorithms. A choice to leak for truth. His words were raw, soundtracked by the hum of attentive silence. He ended with, "We built systems that see people as code. But people are not code. People bleed, resist, dream." The talk video spread across YouTube, TikTok, Instagram Reels. Millions watched and shared. Comments ranged from "This changed how I view corporations" to "He needed a million more voices." He became a symbol of moral resistance. Universities offered honorary degrees, speaking invitations. Professors called him visionary. Younger Black activists treated him as mentor. Simone tuned in from home, eyes lit, philanthropy forming in her mind. Malik felt a proud tremor. Yet under the glow of public victory, Malik felt emptiness in places justice should fill. No criminal charges against executives. No book cookers behind bars. The CEO convo slip had been leaked, but no CFO, no board member indicted. The racist algorithm, was still intact in codebases deep within corporate servers. The structures remained. He returned to Bronzeville and rental housing. Community organizers offered meetings. How to build pressure. He joined calls urging for national legislation, banning race-based profiling, requiring algorithm transparency. Politicians invited him to testify, but investigations stalled. Bureaucratic loops turned. The mistrial had derailed prosecutorial momentum. Legal apparatus closed ranks. He sat with Simone one quiet evening. She asked, "Dad, will they pay? Will they punish him?" Malik swallowed. "Sometimes our justice has to be longer than one trial." Simone nodded, tears in her eyes. "I just want it to count, Dad." He hugged her fiercely. The fight felt ongoing, less cinematic, more exhaustive. Several weeks later, during a televised White House roundtable on AI ethics, the senior advisor cited Hailtech as a case study in governmental risk. It was the first time the federal narrative acknowledged corporate wrongdoing publicly. The advisor proposed a regulatory commission with audit powers. The twist: the proposal included retrospective inquiry into all companies that purchased Hailtech's algorithm, widening scrutiny to universities, municipalities, and federal agencies, meaning ripple effects beyond one firm. But along with that came another. Certain lawmakers urged caution. A congressional aide leaked memos suggesting possible data leaks from FBI investigation files. The mistrial, some argued, revealed flirtations between federal enforcement and corporate interests. There were whispers in the press that federal immunity could be offered behind the scenes to Hailtech execs in exchange for limited compliance. The systems of governmental oversight, as always, still appeared complicit in preserving order over justice. Malik accepted honors, spoke on digital ethics panels, joined civil rights events, but each moment echoed with tension. He tried to teach Simone about integrity, about refusing to disappear. Yet at night he journaled. "Justice delayed is justice denied," he wrote. Each institutional turn left him unsatisfied. He knew exposure was powerful, but power structures were sticky. Clean Truth organizers began drafting model legislation, algorithm transparency, anti-profiling mandates, whistleblower protections. Thousands gave to their platform. Malik felt hope, yet every step forward revealed obstacles: legal loopholes, funding gaps, corporate lobbying. He confronted political lawyers. They spoke plainly, even with public outrage. Without federal charges, this remains a moral victory, not a legal one. That bite hurt more than any stain. Late one storm-washed evening, Malik got the alert from news apps. Jonathan Hale has reportedly flown out of the U.S. Destination unknown. International flight logs, shipping manifests, and visa clearance records tracked him leaving at dawn. The CEO's safe haven was pre-authorized. Hailtech Legal claimed it was a temporary leave for personal reasons. But analysts predicted extradition fights, legal limbo. Malik stared at the alert. His father's warning reverberated. Systems protect their own. The architect of the scandal had escaped judicial scrutiny. The victory on stage, on social media, even in law, felt incomplete. He turned off the phone light, left Simone reading beside him. The theft of identity, the algorithmic design, the public reckoning. It all reached a moment of uneasy pause. Jonathan Hale fled, a man walking out before the system could hold him to account. Malik inhaled. He knew the fight was far from over, but now as dawn cracked, it was personal, global, and still unresolved. Just as he closed his eyes, another alert pulsed across his phone. An encrypted message from the clean legal contact. Hale filed asylum papers in the UK. They've activated corporate back channels. They're launching counter-litigation in multiple jurisdictions to freeze your assets and strike you from memory. You either negotiate or risk becoming erased entirely. Silence swallowed his next breath. Malik Rivers woke to morning light, pouring through the window of a supportive friend's apartment in Chicago. It had been days since Jonathan Hale fled. The stock crashed. The scandal raged. He felt both liberated and haunted. He slipped out quietly and opened his laptop to draft the launch announcement for his nonprofit. He would call it Restore Equity, a grassroots organization aimed at ending racist corporate algorithms and empowering whistleblowers. By midday, Restore Equity had a website. Sleek, clear, mission-driven. Malik wrote the opening manifesto. We believe identity should never be weaponized. We stand for transparency in technology, accountability in corporations, and dignity for all workers. He added resources reporting hotlines, sample litigation templates, contact for attorneys. Volunteers signed up, hundreds that first afternoon, former janitors, ex-employees, tech ethicists, teachers from Simone's school. Emails landed quickly. Clean tech advocates, civil rights lawyers, AI ethics professors, all offering support. He posted a heartfelt video. I was a janitor, but nearly losing everything showed me we must rebuild from below. Every person deserves equitable systems, not code that dehumanizes them. That night, Simone piped up. Dad, your website said restore equity. You're not just cleaning floors again. You're building something. Malik kissed her head. She'd become his loudest cheerleader. Within a week, political organizations reached out. A state senator scheduled a Zoom. Your platform aligns with progressive tech reform. We'd like you to run for state office. As a technologist and community advocate. Malik scoffed at first. He had no campaign staff, no donor base. The stink of politics seemed too close to corruption. Another group phoned offering support to run for Congress on an anti-corporate platform. They emphasized the necessity of a black tech justice voice in legislature. Malik balked. Not a politician, but the offers persisted, and Simone chimed in. Dad, you'll do it differently. The honor on her face ignited something deeper inside him. That evening, Malik found Simone in her room, drawing campaign posters. One depicted him in a suit, labeled Malik for Equity. Truth first. Her art line shaky, vision bold. Dad, I made this, she said softly. You didn't abandon me. You went up. Now I want you to help more people the way you helped me. He swallowed hard. But running for office, it's messy. Simone looked at him, wisdom beyond her 13 years. We need someone who's been erased but refuses to disappear. Malik's resolve crystallized. He accepted a speaking invitation in Detroit. At a packed college auditorium, he spoke about the algorithmic injustice he uncovered at Hale Tech, the corrupt blacklist, and the power of public activism. The audience responded with energy, overwhelming applause, standing ovation. Afterward, janitors and former contractors lined up. A janitor from a hospital recounted how unnamed tech firms had tracked him beyond shift hours. Nuff, he said. Your courage gives us hope. He toured next to San Francisco, New York, Miami, each city with its own tech-centric campus. At each stop he met teachers who disciplined students under biased code of conduct policies, whistleblowers from other companies, AI ethicists alarmed at unchecked corporate algorithms. Restore Equity became not just national but international in reach. Media followed. NPR, Wired, The New Yorker, all profiling his journey from groundskeeper to social justice architect. Movement grows. Within months, Restore Equity became a movement. Chapters established in 30 cities nationwide. Clean Truth, coalition merged efforts, joint campaigns for algorithmic transparency, training sessions for marginalized workers to report internal abuse, support line. Teachers from Simone's school district participated in workshops to update school disciplinary guidelines against racial bias. Whistleblowers filed class actions in multiple states against companies using similar profiling. Malik often spoke to them via video, offering solidarity and strategy. He carried the emotional weight of his father's legacy forward, processing grief and creating community out of shared trauma. One evening, as Restore Equity's steering committee had a video call, one member dropped a bombshell. They'd received a message from inside Hale Tech's data center. Encrypted but undeniable. Algorithm expansion happening now. Our clients are buying the same blacklist logic for new software. Hale Tech isn't dead. They're selling the code behind the scandal to other firms. Gasps echoed across screens. The implication, the racist algorithm Malik exposed, was being sold as a product widening harm across industries. Restoring Equity now meant dismantling a network that extended beyond Hale Tech. The stakes multiplied. In response, Malik and the committee pivoted their strategy. They launched Demand Equitable Code, a campaign calling on tech buyers, governments, hospitals, school districts to cancel contracts with firms using similar profiling. They added petition pages for algorithm audits. Tech companies offering open-source alternatives shared code. People from diverse sectors posted stories, I refused to hire based on coded risk scores. I learned my daughter was flagged because she spoke up. Political consultations intensified. A coalition of progressive senators drafted platform language for a federal bill requiring transparency in workplace algorithms, whistleblower protections, and civil penalties for misuse. Malik found himself booked for keynote speeches across conferences. Aspen Ideas Festival, UN Women's Technology Forum, SXSEU panel on AI ethics. Each time he opened with, "I was unseen. Now I fight so no one is invisible." His tone remained grounded, not a celebrity, but a conduit for collective justice. He refused large speaking fees. Donations to restore equity replaced honoraria. He started nightly video posts, underscoring action steps. Call your representatives, ask for audits, share your story. In one video, Simone joined him, sitting beside him with art and speaking about standing up. If you're punished for kindness, maybe you're doing justice. Despite visibility, the emotional weight pressed. Simone struggled to sleep at times, worried about threats. Malik tried to shield her, but memories of the previous harassment haunted his nights. In small moments, he doubted, am I trading peace for exposure? But emails kept coming. A former janitor in Detroit wrote, I lost my job after whistleblowing. Restore Equity helped me file an EEOC complaint. Now my case is known. A teacher from Boston wrote, we revised our disciplinary handbook. Bias training is mandatory now. Messages piled, trust, gratitude, solidarity. They grounded him. One late evening, as Malik prepared to step on stage at a Restore Equity conference in Washington, D.C., his phone pinged. The message was anonymous and chilling. Your campaign is thriving, but you're still inside their code. Check the admission register. He clicked and opened a PDF, a scan from Hailtech's internal HR system, a proprietary file named Restore Equity Project. DocX listing his nonprofit under monitored projects with statuses, risk ratings, client lists, and a footnote. Backup plan ready for emergent political candidate Malcolm Rivers. He froze. They planned for him all along. Restore Equity itself was being surveilled, cataloged, risk assessed by the same empire he sought to dismantle. Malik replaced the phone in his pocket and turned to the crowd. Lights glowed, microphone hummed. Thousands watched expectantly, but in his mind echoed the truth. Even as he built something new, he remained inside systems that had written his fate from the start. The audience hushed as he approached the podium. He inhaled. The stage lights flared, and his voice rose. Malik Rivers arrived early at the conference center in Washington, D.C., bracing for a full day of panels. The glow from Restore Equity's logo lit the lobby. His heart tightened with residual doubt. Though the movement had grown, the enemy remained potent. Just hours earlier, he discovered Restore Equity was flagged in Hailtech's internal HR risk registers. The systems had written his fate years ago. As his keynote approached, an avalanche began. Hailtech's new leadership, installed after the scandal, launched a coordinated PR counteroffensive. Press releases denied continued wrongdoing, claiming the previous incidents were isolated mismanagement. They promoted new diversity hires, philanthropic partnerships, and a groundbreaking algorithmic audit. News headlines read, Hailtech reborn, scandal addressed, values restored. But beneath the surface, the strategy roared. They funded a network of self-styled fact-checking websites. These sites published articles discrediting Malik, questioning his motives, accusing him of data theft, and labeling Restore Equity a grievance mill. Viral posts claimed Malik manipulated activists for attention, Clean Truth's name, anonymity of some whistleblowers, and even Simone's school incident were described as exaggerated or unverified. A trickle turned flood of coordinated doubt. But millions watched Malik speak later that day. He called it out. These are not fact-checkers. They are smear factories funded by the same actors I exposed. He presented evidence, leaked internal invoices, Shell Corporation funding links, digital footprints. He urged audiences not to cede truth to propaganda. Back home, Simone's school received the PR blitz too. Blogs sponsored by those fact-checkers labeled her video as propaganda using minors. Anonymous messages reached the school board, demanding harsher discipline, citing Zoe Rivers, a fake alias leading school chaos. Soon after, Simone's attendance record registered successive absences. The principal called Malik again. We may have to expel her pending behavior review. Malik's stomach dropped. They were attacking his daughter again. This time strategy was even subtler. weaponized media smears feeding into local institutions. He filed a formal complaint and mobilized local press support. Parents rallied. Simone's record stayed intact, barely, but the emotional toll landed like punches. Simultaneously, Malik's social media accounts, where he had amassed millions of followers, began losing engagement. Tweets disappeared. Facebook posts vanished. Restore Equity's page lost admin privileges. He discovered he was shadow banned, apparently by company requests to platforms citing harassment and mass reporting. Though no policy violation existed, his digital presence diminished. Lists of activist contacts shrank overnight. He called a trusted tech ally. They confirmed massive inauthentic reporting networks had overwhelmed social media platforms with takedown requests, flagged by bots, tied to the same IP ranges previously linked to Hailtech servers. The algorithm that labeled people as high risk had now turned digital networks anti-truth, choking his voice. He responded publicly from his website and independent mailing list. Digital platforms are not neutral. They can be swayed by powerful forces. This is why Restore Equity refuses to rely on monopolistic algorithms. We stay real, people to people. Small-time tactics regained traction. Email newsletters, open Zoom forums, in-person town halls. Then came the unexpected twist. A rogue former Hailtech data analyst, calling themselves Observer Zero, approached him through secure channels. They had faked their resignation to steal internal logs. They provided fresh data. Hailtech has secretly infiltrated voter databases in several swing states: Minnesota, Pennsylvania, Florida, flagging voters by race and political propensity, using derived data from blacklist algorithms. They plan to sell micro-targeted influence packages to conservative PACs. The leaked spreadsheet showed fields: voter ID, race, voting likelihood, influence score, email messaging contact, target segment metric. Comments in the log said deploy to select partners only. The implication was seismic. Corporate algorithmic racism had morphed into political manipulation, a covert industrial complex linking personal data and voting patterns. Malik's jaw clenched. He had exposed scandal inside one company. Now he held evidence of democratic risk across systems. He knew if this reached public before elections, history would pivot. But releasing prematurely might also trigger violent retaliation. He gathered the leaked logs, cryptic messages, metadata proof. He prepared a plan in consultation with legal and press, a midnight release to major investigative outlets and civil rights groups. He announced to Restore Equity staff, "We are now fighting not just corruption, but threat to democratic fairness." The field organizers doubled funding. The movement shifted focus from corporate audit to electoral justice. Elections loomed in mere weeks. The political establishment reacted. Some politicians issued statements condemning corporate manipulation. Others quietly distanced themselves. Federal agencies initiated inquiries. The Democratic National Committee tweeted, "Algorithmic voter profiling is unacceptable." Yet opponents launched counterattacks. Fact-checkers published articles claiming the spreadsheets were unverified leaks, suggesting forged data to cast doubt. Those stories circulated through conservative media circles. Meanwhile, local school districts announced parent-teacher forum events, where community parents could discuss bias and activism in the classroom. Thinly veiled backlash to Simone's video. Malik spoke at Restore Equity's emergency summit. He described the archive from Observer Zero. "They have our votes based on race. They quantify who votes, and they sell our political potential." When he revealed the data was tied to PAC contributions, the room erupted. Tech activists, lawyers, whistleblowers, numbers swarmed Milan, Tokyo, Johannesburg, Nairobi chapters as international context came into play. Malik suffered increased personal pressure. His landlord threatened eviction again, after complaint letters citing protests in media vans visiting his building. Platforms continued shadow banning. He started experiencing license plate surveillance, models known from digital leaks. Late-night texts threatened legal defamation suits. "Stop pushing falsehoods or your daughter's life won't be safe." Clear surveillance signals. The backlash now carried both code and threat. Despite that, Restore Equity recalibrated. They hosted a virtual press event, live editing a code transparency petition, lawmaker sign-up documents, press releases, voter data rights letters, over 300,000 petitions in 24. Hundreds of local chapters mobilized for truth booths at polling sites, informing citizens of data manipulation risk. They urged for immediate audits before ballots issued. Throughout this, Simone withdrew increasingly. She clung to her mother's old book, stared at news on her laptop, and refused to go out without Malik. He tried to protect her. He apologized often. They can't hurt you without trying, because truth scares them. She nodded with understanding beyond years. His exhaustion turned to resolve. I can't let this system erase both of us. Support from civil rights organizations and academic institutions poured in. AI ethicists wrote open letters. A bipartisan group of lawmakers publicly endorsed Restore Equity's calls. The activism felt broader, even global. But every gain also triggered backlash. Restore Equity planned a fundraising dinner outside Chicago, billed as Algorithm Awareness Gala. Malik guarded the location details publicly, but word got out. On the evening of the event, a crowd gathered supporters in solidarity. Simone stood beside him, eyes wide. As speeches began, in the distance a sound like tearing metal. Before Malik could register, a car bomb detonated in a nearby alley adjacent to the event, with no fatalities but windows shattered and smoke choking the air. Chaos erupted. Screams, panic, people stumbling. Malik looked at Simone in horror. People hugged. Sirens wailed. The gala was in disarray. As security and police swarmed, Malik realized they weren't only targeting words and reputation, they were escalating to terror. The algorithm had struck back in flesh. In the smoky chaos, a masked figure was caught on a live stream camera placing a device inside the car. As the feed froze, a subtitle flickered. You can't expose our code without consequences. Silence closed around Malik. Malik Rivers opened his eyes to sunlight streaming through his apartment window. The echoes of last night's car bomb still reverberated in his mind, but he was alive. Simone, curled in her bed beside him, stirred. His heart pounded, not from fear but relief. He had survived. The movement had endured. By afternoon, news coverage had shifted from terror to outrage. Journalists connected the bombing to the leaked voter profiling scandal. Civil rights leaders condemned the act as political violence. Clean Truth called for nonviolent solidarity gatherings across the country. Cities responded, candlelight vigils, community meetings, signs reading breath safety and algorithm transparency, dotted public squares. Less than 24 hours later, the FBI announced arrests. 3 former Hailtech operatives, identified as domestic terrorism suspects, had been detained for orchestrating the bombing. They'd been traced to connections in the now public voter profiling algorithm department. The officials gave press briefings under heavy guard, press release notes, handcuffs. The arrests validated the scope of the threat. Corporate algorithm weaponization had escalated into physical violence. Malik watched the news on mute, sitting in a rented living room. He had given names of individuals believed involved to investigative channels. His leaks had unearthed internal chat logs planning extremist suppression tactics. The FBI confirmed domain mappings, IP traces, procurement orders for bomb making. The public finally saw direct connection between algorithmic dehumanization and domestic terror. In the following days, Congress scheduled emergency hearings on algorithmic bias, corporate governance, and data ethics. Malik was invited as expert witness. The Capitol corridors hummed with urgency, surrounded by lawmakers, tech regulators, and civic leaders. He took the stand again, this time not as suspect, but as hero and informant. Congressional hearing rooms were cold and cavernous. Malik testified on how the racial blacklist algorithm classified people for corporate scapegoating, voter manipulation, and violent suppression. His voice was measured, fearless, clear. They designed death threats. They sold it as product. Their code poisoned democracy. I refuse to let us become code. Lawmakers, across party lines, listened, leaned in. Representatives with civil rights records invoked his evidence. Sen. Alexandra Perez declared, "We have codified moral laws for technology. We must legislate accountability." Within weeks, bipartisan support led to swift legislative action. The Algorithmic Transparency and Equity Act passed Congress and was signed into law by the president. Its provisions banned race-based hiring and voter risk profiling algorithms. Corporations deploying such systems would face civil and criminal penalties, even public exposure orders. Malik sat in expected modesty at the signing ceremony, cameras flashing. Simone stood beside him. When the president said Malik's name, as someone who refused to disappear, "Thank you," he stepped forward to shake hands. The moment was surreal. The janitor turned whistleblower wearing a suit, causing law to change. With national attention, publishers approached him. He accepted a contract for a memoir, tentatively titled Mopped Floors and Dirty Truths. Its description, the unauthorized life of a black cleaner drafted into corporate deception and suffraged into moral rebellion. Drafting the first chapters, he recounted Gulf War service, his dreams of coding, sabotage that crushed his IT career, and the rebirth into crusader. The book would debut the following spring. He interviewed in small studios, digital platforms, bookstores. He refused flashy endorsements, opting instead for bookstore tours in Detroit, Newark, Atlanta, places deeply affected by algorithmic discrimination. Simone came along some nights, giving opening comments. My father showed me that truth, even hated by power, matters. A sunny afternoon followed activism's storms. Simone's high school graduation day bloomed. She walked across the stage in cap and gown. As her name was called, Malik leaned forward, tears brimming. Amid applause, Simone accepted her diploma with top honors. Her academic record had recovered fully after the school rescinded her wrongful suspension. At the reception later, Simone hugged him. "Dad, I'm proud of you," she whispered. He hugged back, realizing that her trauma had averted into triumph as well. She had taken trauma, connected it to creativity and justice. She drew a portrait of him cleaning floors with a pen, and beneath it, "We rewrite code." Restore Equity expanded into policy consulting and campus partnerships. Universities offered honorary degrees. Malik accepted one from a historically black university, and another from a progressive tech institute. Guest professorships, awards panels. He used them to keep focus on law changes and AI governance. He also met with international delegations from UN panels on digital rights and algorithmic fairness. Their questions often ended with, "How did you hold power accountable?" His response became shorthand: "By refusing to vanish, and by rewriting the code we thought defined us." Tariq helped run the nonprofit, now a team of staffers, legal advisors, and tech ethicists. Simone contributed art and youth outreach programming. In shared moments, they reflected on their father's legacy and now their own generational continuity. One late evening, while reviewing email files, Malik noticed a new message, encrypted, anonymous. The subject, "Truth you may not know." He hesitated, then opened. The body contained one sentence. Hailtech's algorithm was sold to federal contractors, tied to domestic police monitoring programs. Your surveillance and networks created from your blacklist are still live in municipal systems. Attached were documents, procurement contracts, vendor ID numbers, and city police software contracts, in at least 4 states. The algorithm wasn't just corporate, it had tiered expansion into law enforcement systems. The racist decision logic remained alive in policing infrastructure. Malik's stomach tightened. Though laws banned race-based hiring and campaign targeting, they didn't yet ban race-based police software. The algorithm he thought he'd dismantled was still surveilling and punishing black communities. This new threat needed focus outside of congressional hearing rooms. He called together the Restore Equity Board. They prepared legal complaints to state attorneys general, filed FOIA requests, and drafted expansion of legislative proposals to cover law enforcement tools. The fight morphing once more into deeper systems. Malik was now called for roundtable panels on global governance of AI. Video after video, article after article, called him integrator of moral narrative and technological caution. The memoir pre-orders surged. A documentary filmmaker approached to create a feature film. School boards reached out to create curriculum modules. Yet for Malik, the emotional burden weighed constantly. Every mention of surveillance, every mention of Simone's trauma, every late-night reminder. He hugged Simone at her dorm room during college orientation, reminding her, "We escaped their code, but their memory can terrorize you." One ordinary afternoon, Malik sat at his desk browsing fan mail emails and strategy documents when his phone pinged with a job alert. It wasn't from traditional recruiters. The text read, "We build with truth. CEO wants to speak." Attached was a business card image. Cassandra Reed, CEO, Veritas Forward, a new tech firm founded by a young black woman focused on ethical AI auditing. The message continued, "We've reviewed your book draft and mission. We want you to help design tools that can't be misused to build transparent, anti-racist code bases." Interested? Malik sat still, absorbing the weight of her words. It was not a corporate temptation. It felt like solidarity. A chance not just to dismantle systems, but to help craft new ones. He looked at the framed drawing Simone made of him, rewriting code. In mirrored symmetry, he held the message in his hand. We build with truth. He exhaled, closed his eyes, and answered, yes. As he sent the reply, his phone shimmered with a security alert from his legal team. New lawsuit filed. Veritas Forward is now being subpoenaed by multi-state grand juries, tied to Hailtech's shell networks. Documents name you as potential witness and defendant. Silence settled. If you've ever been silenced for telling the truth, if you've ever watched someone get punished just for being seen, then you already know Malik's story isn't fiction. It's every hallway we've been told to walk quietly through. Type yes if you believe the system needs to be rewritten. Subscribe if this broke your heart.